Hey everyone, Don Saladino coming to you from Siege Athletics in Mineola. Thank you, Noah Siegel, the owner, for allowing me to come in here after hours. It's great to be in the gym where I'm not wearing a mask. And today we're gonna be talking about unilateral versus bilateral. Now, unilateral is your traditional pressing with two hands, pulling with two hands, or off of 2 feet, okay? Now, I wouldn't say that there's ever an argument, but sometimes there is a debate. Is it better to go bilaterally because you can go heavier, or is it better to go unilaterally even though you have to go with lighter weight, you have to stabilize a lot more, allowing the body to really work and create tension and find that balance and stability that it needs for overall integrity of how we move, overall health, etc. And with my training, I really like to incorporate both in. Now, if I was to rate them in level of importance, and I had to choose one or the other, I would definitely, without a doubt, choose unilateral training, okay? It has so much carryover. And if I'm doing a split squat, which is this position here, and I'm training as heavy as I possibly can with the best possible technique that I can maintain, that is going to carry over into lifts like my bilateral squat. All right, but we're also putting ourselves into a position that I feel is way more safe, okay? And it's requiring way more out of our hips, out of our ankles, in a good way, okay? We're not putting ourselves into a compromising position where you're gonna find yourself, you know, getting injured. It could still happen, but this is a much safer way to train, and we are requiring so much more on our entire body to have to engage and stabilize. So why don't I take you guys through a couple of variations, really basic ways to be able to implement some unilateral training into your routine. And you know my bilateral training because I went through the big three and we talked about things like the bench, the squat, the deadlift. And bilateral is, you know, if we row, if we press, anything that we do where both of our arms or both of our legs have to work at the same time. But now we're gonna get into some unilateral. Let's go. So I think getting into something as simple as the split squat that we can be using kettlebells, dumbbells for, getting into a very safe, balanced position where at the bottom of our position, bottom of our split squat, you're gonna notice that both of my legs are at about a 90-degree bend. I'm never gonna touch my back knee to the ground, but it's basically gonna look like where I'm lowering that back knee and raising back up, okay? Now what's going on right now? I'm allowing my feet to stretch. I'm allowing my hip to stabilize, okay? I'm allowing my torso to stay more vertical, which is, yes, it's gonna be a bit safer on our lower back. So if you're someone who have been dealing with some lower back discomfort, I think this might be something that's gonna fit into your training menu a lot more easily, and it's gonna be a lot more user-friendly of what it is you're trying to do. It could be a walking lunge, where we are going into our, you know, more of our dynamic way, where I just showed you that split squat. The walking lunge or the lunge is going to be much more dynamic, where I could be doing a forward lunge, a reverse lunge, a seesaw lunge. There are so many different variations, and naturally I can load this a lot differently, okay? So going into a more advanced, probably one of the more advanced and one of my favorite ways to be able to do a split squat would be a rear foot elevated split squat or Bulgarian split squat. So now what we're doing is we're taking our back foot and we're elevating it. You're gonna notice that my torso is going to hinge a bit forward, but it's never gonna round. I'm gonna drop that back knee down. I'm gonna raise back up. Now this is a movement I can do with body weight. I could do it in holding dumbbells. I could do it in a goblet position. I could do the split squat, the rear foot elevated in a rack position as well, even though the torso is tilting forward a bit. It might be a little bit more difficult for you to be able to maintain that bell position. But again, taking a lot of what we do bilaterally, and in my opinion, making it just a bit better with some unilateral work. Now, if you are a bodybuilder, or you are a power lifter, naturally you're going to need to load a lot heavier than what some of these lifts are going to allow you to do unilaterally. So that's where I believe there is a reason for doing a lot of bilateral work. I still love doing bilateral work, and by grabbing a heavier bar or putting a heavier bar into a front squat position or on my back is allowing my entire body to engage a bit differently. But I can assure you something, mixing unilateral work in is one of the, I think one of the most underutilized tools in all of fitness and training, and allowing that body to really rely on its athleticism to have to be able to balance and stabilize is something that should not be overlooked. So let's go to some upper body pressing. That was just some basics. with some lower body training, but I think you're starting to get a feel for why I like unilateral so much, especially from a stabilizing and balancing standpoint. So let's go over to some pressing. So we're gonna go into some of our unilateral pressing now. So just to grab a really light dumbbell. Typically what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna lay back as I'm doing a flat dumbbell press. Okay, I like to where I am pressing my opposite arm overhead to just kind of create tension. And at that point, I'm gonna lower the weight and I'm gonna press. Okay, so what's happening right now is I'm really feeling that my feet, my glutes have to engage with the ground, okay, to be able to stabilize. I'm feeling a lot more work going on in my core. Whatever I do to one side, I'm going to do to the other. Okay, just an example, flat press, really simple. We can do that now on an incline. We can do that now half kneeling. With a kettlebell from either side, with dumbbells, alternating one arm dumbbell from either side. I think you guys are understanding the possibilities. What I would recommend is if you don't have a lot of experience pressing unilaterally, I would definitely do so, because you're gonna notice I keep talking about carryover. As we get that one arm or that alternating pressing stronger, or that one arm pull or that alternating pull stronger, you're gonna find that when you go back and grab a barbell, you're just gonna feel so much more grounded, stable, stacked, call it what you want, but you're gonna be a lot stronger, okay? So right now I wanna also show us how whatever we're doing from a pressing standpoint, we can also go and we can do from a pulling standpoint. So it's just some really basics. Getting into a bent row, where we're going to have to pull to our hip, still focusing on the exact same principles of the row, okay? Meaning we want our back flat, we don't want to be in a flex position. I am rowing where the weight's coming to my hip. I dislike rowing where the weight is coming up to our shoulder, because I feel like we're getting a lot more bicep and we're not utilizing the primary mover. So from here it's, okay? So we can do that now from that's a horizontal pull. And we can even go into some vertical pulling, which would be a one arm pull down, an alternating one arm pull down. These are great variations to start mixing in. And even from a psychological standpoint, guys, we're used to doing something the same way over and over and over. It's nice to be able to have some fun in the gym and change up that training stimulus a bit and focus on something that's a little bit different, that's forcing our body to have to engage a little bit differently. Training for me has to be fun. So if I'm going in there and there's the monotony of doing the same stuff over and over and over, I'm not going in there and doing what my main focus is, and that's overall energy, me being happy, body composition, movement, all these things that I want out of my body is something that I know by mixing up my training like this is gonna it really helps me out. I know it's gonna help you out also. Come on. All right, now also, we showed some pressing, we showed some pulling unilaterally, we showed some lower body work, more compound work. I wanna show one of my favorite unilateral exercises, and that's called a one-legged RDL, or one-legged, a single leg deadlift. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grab it contralaterally, which means the leg that's raising up is gonna be the hand that's holding on. And I'm gonna basically go into my Romanian deadlift, where I'm leaning forward and standing up. Now I'm using a kettlebell right now. You do not need to use a kettlebell. You can use a dumbbell. But very simply, we're hinging and we're standing back up. Other side. One more time. Awesome, that simple. So this is another example of how I might take an exercise like a bilateral, barbell RDL, which is a movement I like to load heavy on. It's a movement that I am, really focusing on to work on my hamstrings, my glutes, my core. But then by turning around and doing something on one leg like that is forcing my entire training stimulus to change. When I'm feeling burnt out from a lot of bilateral work, sometimes I might come in and say, you know what, we're gonna take a little bit of a different focus, and we're gonna turn around and we're gonna focus on more unilateral work today, or all unilateral work for a month, and really just try and grease the groove a little bit, file the edges off, allow that body to feel good, allow that body to open up. And at that point, when I get back into a lot more of my heavier training, I feel like I can move a lot better. But even during my heavier training now, where my training's evolved throughout the years, is I never take unilateral work out of my programming. There's not a workout that goes by that I'm not mixing in some form of unilateral work, and I recommend you to do the same. So if you have any questions, fire them off below. And please remember, there are so many other variations out there. The purpose of this video was to open your eyes a bit and show you some of the variations that I like to implement into my training and my clients' training. Thanks.